I'm Atra El-Nashar in Washington. For the first time, the White House is saying their plan to revoke visas from Chinese students is directly tied to their strategy for dealing with China on trade. We're also learning trade negotiations between the U.S. and China have hit a wall just as the administration's global tariffs face new hurdles in court. The ability for the U.S. and China to reach a trade deal that spares their economies from debilitating tariffs is in doubt. As President Trump says, so much for being Mr. Nice Guy. Earlier this month, after a weekend of talks in Geneva, the two countries made a temporary deal that included lowering their triple-digit tariffs while they continue negotiations.
They violated a big part of the agreement we made.
The White House accusing China of being slow to lift its non-tariff barriers and open up its market.
I would say that they are a bit stalled, given the magnitude of the talks, given the complexity that this is going to require both leaders to weigh in with each other.
Things just got more complex. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller revealing the administration's ongoing effort to aggressively revoke visas for Chinese students is part of their plan to compete economically with China.
That is going to deliver a significant setback to China's long-term industrial plans.
China says the policy disrupts people-to-people exchanges between the two countries and will further damage the image and reputation of the U.S. itself. China also says the U.S. should fully rescind its tariffs after the first of two federal courts ruled the president overstepped his executive authority by leaning on a 1977 Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose sweeping import taxes without Congress's approval. An appeals court is temporarily allowing the tariffs to continue while the legal process plays out.
And hopefully now we'll go to court and just win that battle. Because if we don't have the power to do what they're doing to us, we are going to be a great nation no longer.
The plaintiffs in this case, groups of states and small businesses, have until next week, Thursday, to respond to the appeals court. Many of them have said from the start they expected this to be a lengthy legal process and are confident the lower court's ruling will hold. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar. I'm Atra El-Nashar in Washington. The future of trade talks between the U.S. and China now look more uncertain than ever, as both countries accuse each other of violating an agreement that was supposed to help bring an end to the trade war. What was thought to be a breakthrough in U.S.-China trade relations in Geneva 3 weeks ago has all but diminished.
They're just slow-rolling the deal.
After the White House accused China of not following through on a key part of the Geneva Agreement, lowering its non-tariff barriers to unlock rare earth mineral exports, China now accuses the Trump administration of imposing discriminatory restrictive measures against China, including export restrictions on AI chips and taking away visas from Chinese students.
So by exerting this extra scrutiny on Chinese visas, that is going to deliver a significant setback to China's long-term industrial plans.
China's Ministry of Commerce says the United States has unilaterally provoked new economic and trade frictions, exacerbating the uncertainty and instability of bilateral economic and trade relations.
I can confirm that the two leaders will likely talk this week.
Members of the president's economic team say they believe a conversation between Trump and Xi is what's needed to get talks back on track. The standoff has implications far beyond tariffs. China says if the U.S. continues on this path, they will take resolute and forceful measures to safeguard its legitimate rights and interests. And it's China that has the final say over whether TikTok has a future in the United States, an issue with high political stakes for President Trump, staring down a June 19th deadline to broker a deal to spin off the popular app from its Chinese parent company.
To do it properly, we'll probably have to get China's approval. China's never easy.
We're learning these snags with China have impacted the White House's ability to negotiate trade deals with other countries. Top White House economist Kevin Hassett just revealed he had hoped to see an announcement on a deal last week, but that their team has instead been laser focused on the China issue and making sure it doesn't cause any supply disruptions. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
President Trump is preparing for high-level trade talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping as the administration pushes new tariffs.
I can confirm that the two leaders will likely talk this week.
Both the U.S. and China have accused one another of violating a preliminary trade agreement reached in May.
I am confident that when President Trump and Party Chairman Xi have a call, that this will be ironed out.
This comes as the president doubled tariffs on steel and aluminum imports with the new 50% rate set to begin Wednesday. Trade partners, including the European Union and Canada, are promising retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. if Trump moves forward with the tax. The White House says it will not back down.
If we're not strong, then that's when bad things happen. So we have to show strength. We have to have a steel industry that's ready for American defense.
The president's sweeping tariffs are facing legal challenges. Monday, he called on the courts to uphold his authority to impose them, saying not having it would lead to the economic ruination of the United States of America. Erica Brown, CBS News, the White House.
I'm Amarillo in Washington. A lead member of President Trump's trade team testifying before lawmakers Wednesday as his tariff plans face some key tests. They only have a matter of weeks to negotiate dozens of trade deals under a self-imposed deadline. President Trump's global tariff agenda is under pressure and in the spotlight.
It would be good to have some certainty.
It's been more than 2 months since Liberation Day, and so far, the White House has only made one outline of a trade deal with the UK. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick appearing before senators, many of whom are hearing from businesses in their states struggling to adapt to fluid tariff policies, like a defense contractor in New Hampshire.
They said that their lead times have gone from 20 weeks to 2.5 years. Because of the tariffs.
More changes coming Wednesday with steel and aluminum tariffs doubling from 25% to 50%, which could complicate ongoing trade talks.
If you're going to open your market, now let's talk. And that's exactly the president's view. If you don't want to open it, you can pay a tariff.
The president's 90-day pause on double-digit universal tariffs, the same ones being challenged in court, will end in early July. The White House confirms it just reached out to countries telling them the president expects, they say, good deals.
USTR sent this letter to all of our trading partners just to give them a friendly reminder that the deadline is coming up.
The highest stakes surround what happens with China. The White House said it's likely President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping will speak this week as they accuse each other of violating terms of a short-term agreement made in Geneva last month. Tuesday night, China's foreign ministry released these images of its meeting with U.S. Ambassador to China, David Perdue, saying they hope he serves as a mediator of differences. Hours later, around 2 a.m. Wednesday, President Trump posted, "I like President Xi of China, always have and always will, but he is very tough and extremely hard to make a deal with." Without a deal or a clear end to this trade war, life for American business likely won't get easier. On Capitol Hill, I'm Amarillo reporting.
You put out on Truth Social a post regarding your conversation with President Xi. Right. Can you talk about whether or not you feel that trade talks, trade relations are back on track after appearing to be a little bit off track last week?
A little bit off track. It was only the complexity. It's pretty complex stuff. We had a very good conversation with President Xi a little while ago, just before your arrival. In fact, we just hung up and they said, "You're here." I said, "That's pretty good." Two great leaders of the world in a very short period of time. We had a very good talk, and we've straightened out any complexity. It's very complex stuff, and we straightened it out. The agreement was we're going to have Scott and Howard and Jameson will be going and meeting with their top people and continue it forward. But no, I think we have everything. I think we're in very good shape with China and the trade deal. We have a deal with China, as you know, but we were straightening out some of the points, having to do mostly with rare earth, magnets, and some other things.
Those reduced trade tariff rates, they remain in effect?
Yeah, we have the deal. I mean, we've had a deal. We announced the deal, and we'll be, I guess you could say, I wouldn't even say finalizing it up, Scott. I would say we have a deal, and we're going to just make sure that everybody understands what the deal is. Okay? We had a really good conversation. By the way, he invited me to China, and I invited him here. We both accepted. So I'll be going there with the First Lady at a certain point, and he'll be coming here, hopefully, with the First Lady of China.
Mr. President, what do you expect